Grateful here on the Intel Podcast. My name is Jake Wendell. Always I have Topher Cochran and Topher. Happy Thanksgiving Eve, buddy.
Yes, it's tomorrow's the big day, but I always think the day before the big day is the best day.
Yeah,
it's the tease
like
that you like. It's all prep day.
It's like the Saturday walkthrough before a big game. You're just kind of going through it. You know what's to come. It's an easy day. You're enjoying it. You're having a good time. On the day before Thanksgiving, the whole, house starts to smell a little bit. And we were talking a little bit, believe it or not, because we're manly men. We were talking a little bit about candles before the show.
Yes, and the best candles are the ones that smell like the holiday. Not the actual holiday, but just things that remind you of the holiday. And, pine comes to mind when I think of, Christmas, the fall. Come Thanksgiving, around Christmas, you have, the pumpkin smell, right? Like the pumpkin spice?
Yeah, the pumpkin spice is a little overpowering at times. But, yeah, I get what you're saying.
But, yeah, the candles are always better than the holiday itself. Because you could buy, 9 of those candles and have 9 of those scented holidays in your house while the holiday only lasts about, 12 hours?
Yeah, exactly. That's the worst is the come down from the holiday because then you still have the candles to burn for another month and you're kind of you've
already cleaned the house
up.
You've already cleaned it up.
You feel the scent and you're like, where's the holiday? And you're like, oh,
yes.
Oh.
You're looking behind the couch. You're looking behind the couch after you've cleaned up all the stuff. You've cleaned up the tree. You've thrown away all the wrapping paper. You've thrown away everything. Even all the food is gone. But the one thing that left is that scented candle. That's just, you're looking, where's the actual holiday at? And you realize you got to wait 370 days.
I just hate you get the bad candle. There's nothing worse than a bad smelling candle because the only way, if you have, bad food or something, you can, all right, throw it away, give it to the dog. Or if you're drunk enough, you can muscle through it. But if you have a bad candle, I think you're kind of just stuck with it. Or it's just going to sit around your house because nothing is worse than when you light a bad cherry pie candle. Because then it just smells so bad you want to throw it against the wall and if the house burns down, the house burns down.
And you really can't throw away a candle because it's all glass. And I don't like throwing away glass because I imagine the glass that breaks is now going to cause punctures in my trash bag, which then will make the house smell even more.
You're such a teacher. I'm worried about glass.
Yeah, there's steps to the scent, and you don't want the whole house smelling like crap.
You don't
only one part.
You don't let kids drink Snapple in your class, do you?
I'm okay with water, but the minute you eat a candy, I'm Joe Philbin. I am Joe Philbin in the classroom. The minute there's candy wrappers, I tell them, here, tie your shoes. Throw away the candy wrappers because I'm not having it, man. I'm not your mom. I'm not your mom. That's what I tell them.
Are you sure? You do look like you probably do look like some of their moms. I don't know if that's what that means, but I'm just gonna say you look like a mom. All right, so tomorrow we do have some games. Well, this might come out today. It will actually. There's no doubt in my mind this podcast will come out today, but today is up in the air for what day that literally is. But on Thanksgiving we have 3 games: Bears Lions at 12:30, Redskins Cowboys 4:30, and Falcons Saints at 8:20. And a couple things stand out. We have Colt McCoy and Case Keenum starting. That's something to be grateful for.
Colt McCoy and Case Keenum not in the same week.
Not in the same game, but the Bears are going to
do
Mitch Trubisky. So we got Case Keenum, and then no Alex Smith. So Washington's going with their Colt.
Yeah. So you have basically. I mean, I feel like what Washington did. By basically starting or signing Mark Sanchez. I don't know what you're doing as your backup. I mean, unless you're completely mailing it in. Oh, and by the way, an error. Case Keenum is still on Denver.
Who is it? It's one of those backups.
One of those backups, the journey. Chase Daniel? No, it's
Chase Daniels. It is Chase Daniels.
Yeah, they're all the same. They're all the same. They all got that fat Chad Henne face.
Oh my God! Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, I'm ready for it.
We
should make a drinking game where every time Colt McCoy throws a touchdown, you gotta drink from a Colt 45, and every time he throws an interception, you gotta finish the rest of it. I think that could be.
That could be brutal. I don't know. You gotta hope that they put a Colt McCoy in game manager mode.
Yeah.
So that way it's just neutral. You don't really drink anything. You might take a sip, but outside of that. But yeah, we got some good games, man. I always like watching Chicago's defense when they're healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Strictly because of Khalil Mack. I see these gifs online and he's just abusing grown men. And it's not fair. And you realize that human being walks this planet. And thank God he lives in Chicago because I don't want him near me.
Exactly. we had a little news last night. I don't know if you see in the rundown, but I posted do you remember this game? And it's very Thanksgiving related because
Mm-hmm.
it's when the Dolphins beat the Cowboys 40-21 to improve to 8-4 under the mustache himself. It was in Dallas. I was 9 years old, and I remember this game vividly just because I remember Jason Taylor eating the turkey leg at the end of the game. But this is so important because a member of the Miami Dolphins team, can you give me a second here? Where are you? He had an interception in this game. He had a sack in this game and 5 tackles. And all of a sudden, actually 2 tackles for a loss, and all of a sudden, he's on the path to go to the Hall of Fame, and that's Zach Thomas.
I think we should credit our podcast for making one last push to get him on the ballot.
I think we should.
We had Crowder on, and Crowder basically kind of opined on why Zach Thomas needs to be in the Hall of Fame. And next thing you know, a couple weeks later, someone had to listen to the pod, right? Someone had to.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear someone say his square-ass jaw better be plated in gold, that is like as much of a signal that you need to be in the Hall of Fame as you could ever imagine, right?
Square ass jaw or bald ass head, and Jason Taylor.
They belong together. They come together to form Captain America or Captain Planet.
But
I always mix
that game though was so fun because one, I distinctly remember the uniforms they were wearing. They were wearing those old school uniforms that kind of like what we want right now, but they wore them in Dallas. And it's always fun seeing your team go on the road on a national game and completely blow out the opponent.
Oh yeah. And they were good. They were 8-4.
That game was so fun because like they still had Fiedler at quarterback. I remember they had Chambers. Chambers scored a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just watching it, and that's before like the kind of like you had this pessimistic view of the Dolphins.
Right.
It was still there, but it always kind of like happened in December when they would kind of fall apart because they'd go to New England or Buffalo and just kind of choke it away.
Mm-hmm.
But now, like, you know, those were like the fun days for the Dolphins.
And so there's that game I remember, and then there's the Leon Lett game, which I wasn't alive for. That the Dolphins won in that game because he wouldn't let the ball alone.
They were 8-2, by the way. Dolphins were 8-2 in the Leon Lett game, which is crazy to me that we're all like looking at these records and it's like, what the hell happened?
The best part about the Leon Lett game, it is about as in the hunt as you could possibly get because they did not win a game for the rest of the season. How great is that?
Yes.
That is like poetic as this podcast will ever get because, you know, they talk about that game. I think the Cowboys won the Super Bowl that year, but everyone just wants to talk about that.
Well, because the aesthetics of that game, it was the snow. Like that was a football game. The snow. You had the snow. You had fat people floating around, not being able to keep their balance, and then you had a bonehead mistake.
Exactly. Yeah, you're 100% right. And I think he do it again in like the Super Bowl or like in the playoffs. I think some sort of. I think he might have dropped the ball before the end zone, one of those or something. But we're not.
I completely lost everything you said.
Uh-oh. I thought Leon Lett did that again before in the past. Oh my God, my dog. I'm sorry. Is that
Gizmo?
That's Gizmo.
He's making an appearance. Man, I'm looking at that game, this Dolphin game with Fiedler. 16 for 20, 239, 3 touchdowns, and Ricky Williams had 104 yards. Actually, no, he had 104 carries for 31 yards.
Sounds right. Sounds
about accurate.
Yeah, that's like a Chad Pennington game. It's great. I love it. I mean, because I wasn't really around for much of the Fiedler days. But Topher, to kind of bounce back, what are you thankful for Dolphins related?
In terms of Dolphins related, I think I'm thankful for, and you have it on your show sheet, is the fact that two of our rookies are actually playing pretty decent for rookies. Now, that can completely change as their career goes on. But, you know, for some reason, the Dolphins are the only NFL team with 2 rookies in the NFL's top 10 rookie tacklers. And it's such a weird, obscure stat that, like, I'm trying to, like, puff my chest about. But, yes, I'm talking about Minkah Fitzpatrick and Jerome Baker, that, like, these guys have made plays throughout the season. Granted, they've showed flashes of just being a rookie, but they've given you hope with the Minkah, in pass defense, and now you have a pick 6 2 weeks ago with Jerome Baker. What about you, Jake?
See, I put that stat because it's fun to say, but I don't like. You could say I'd rather say I like these rookies because they're flashing, not because they're both top 10 in rookie tackles.
I
That's
can
like
care less. I laugh at that stuff. That's
that,
like saying you're top 10 in like doubles.
exactly. It's who cares? It's like such a niche stat that doesn't really tell you much. You know what? I'm thankful for Albert Wilson and Jakeem Grant.
Mm.
Just for that high five, because without that high five, the season would be just.
It was an 8-bit. They turned it into an 8-bit. Dolphins Twitter turned it into like a little 8-bit right after the game, which is pretty cool. I saw a T-shirt being sold on that moment.
There should be that. I don't think I've ever had a higher moment as a Dolphins fan as to being 3-0, your team's high fiving, but then the Dolphins realize they're the Dolphins, and we're here at 5-5, and we are about to introduce the one, the only Ryan Tannehill 3.0. How long until people are sick of him again?
I think honestly, it could be the first drive.
I was thinking about that too. Yeah,
probably. I think it'll be the first drive where you're. Thank God it's a road game because you don't have to hear the boos. You'll hear them on Twitter, but I mean, it's like the offense already has the issues, and it's to the point now where if they just don't score, it's boos and they're calling for heads. Because it can't be field goals, man. It's just we got to score on the first drive. That's honestly it for me. And if they don't do that, and if Tannehill just kind of looks like he has a noodle arm, or if there's a sack because he held on to it too long, it's going to be chaos for the. Thank God I'll be on a plane flying home, so I'm not going to be able to see it, which is I'm pretty happy about.
Exactly. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a tough one.
No doubt, both sides.
The Colts defense isn't great. I think it would be hilarious if Bryce Butler comes in and scores like 3 touchdowns. I think that would be great. But my favorite Tannehill quote that we've seen so far is, "It doesn't feel like I'm being stabbed anymore when I throw a football."
But not quite 100%.
But not quite 100%. That's great that he went through weeks of feeling like he was being stabbed. This ain't some short-term injury. This is not some short, we rested him through the bye week, he's fine. This is going to haunt him for a while.
I imagine him being stabbed with a butter knife every time he throws it. Just like right in his back. It's just a butter knife being stabbed on every like deep ball he tries to throw. And he realizes like, all right, I'll just rub some stem cells on it and hopefully it goes away.
What does this mean for both Kenny Stills and Devontae Parker, you think?
I think if you got to be pumped if you're both of them, right? Just because you have a guy who's kind of you've been successful with. Not more Stills than Parker, but you got a guy who can, throw to your strengths and Stills, with a deep. If he has it, like we don't know his arm strength. Like we're assuming he's playing because he has arm strength to throw it deep. But I think it bodes well for both of them because you just kind of got an average quarterback at best throwing you the ball with strengths that cater to your strengths.
Yeah, because Kenny Stills only has 19 receptions on the season. And everyone asks what's wrong with him. But I mean, he makes his money on the deep ball, and I'm sure they've had him open. I'm sure they've had him open, but Brock Osweiler just can't throw to anyone other than the sideline. That joke is just going to be mine forever. So I think it helps Stills. The best part about Stills is I don't think velocity matters because, I mean, they said he was throwing it 50 yards. And with the type of ball you want to throw Stills, you're not throwing a bullet all the time. So you could kind of throw a duck and, he might beat a defense where he can, catch a duck. Parker, on the other hand, I think if Tannehill can have some zip on his ball, Parker's going to really come back because he's the guy who's going to be open 15 yards down the field and be able to make a play after the catch. And then those drag routes that Osweiler missed once or twice. And we kind of hope Tannehill can hit them. But we got to remember that this offense wasn't too great with Tannehill, so he's not going to come back and everything's going to be, sunshine and butterflies.
Yeah, and we'll find out if Tannehill's better. Like how fast do you think we'll find out?
I think we'll get an idea of what they're trying to do with him in the first couple of drives. I thought it was kind of weird that Tannehill's coming back and playing right away because we saw
on the road.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, both tackles looked like, yeah, we're going to play. Then it was, no, we're going to rest them through the bye week. It seems like the Dolphins this year have been a team to hold out all the guys for an extra week compared to bringing them back too early. So I think this is like a do or die for Tannehill, and it's probably going to end in an 8-8, dude. It's probably going to be right?
It is. I think it is because it's at the end. It's not like the team got. I mean, the team got like a point better. If you go by the spread this week, it was just a 10-point spread. With Osweiler starting, they announced Tannehill starting, and it went down to 9. Like that's how much of a difference it makes. And frankly, I don't think it's. To me, I think it just comes down to Andrew Luck. He's just gonna go crazy. He's been playing amazing the past couple of weeks. His shoulder looks like it's normal now, and they're getting healthy. They have a good offensive line. They've built this team in such a crazy way where at one point in Luck's career, we were questioning whether Andrew Luck is, whether Tannehill's better than Andrew Luck. They fired their GM, and they went ahead and just kind of brought around and drafted offensive linemen all over the place and got some cheap running backs. And now the offense looks so different now. It looks explosive, and it's like we got to deal with that on Sunday.
Yeah, I could not believe the stat that the Colts haven't allowed a sack in 5 games. That is insane. Yeah. That is insane. I could not imagine the Dolphins dealing with something like that. And then the Colts will be without their center, but everyone keeps saying this is a big deal. Yeah, exactly. Whatever, because the Dolphins have played against banged up lines and haven't been able to do anything all season long. So I don't really see that as like a huge advantage, and that's not something they've been able to take advantage of. So one stat I saw is that the Colts are 5th in points per game and 18th in defensive points a game. I thought their defense was a little better than that, but it's going to be really, really interesting to see how long it takes for one of his receivers, probably T.Y. Hilton, which is fine because he's on my fantasy team, to be running wide open down the field sometime, because Andrew Luck is the 4th best quarterback coming off of play action. So what quarter do you think it's going to be when the Colts have a wide receiver wide open off of busted coverage?
Probably mid first quarter, like mid, right at a shotgun play action, and just you'll see T.Y. Hilton just kind of streaking across the field, and it's probably gonna be Bobby McCain that blows that coverage, right?
No, maybe because he'll still be in concussion protocol.
Okay, but you gotta imagine it's probably gonna be the second. It's gonna be early, and there's gonna be one moment where you're like, "Yep, that's happened," because the book is out on this defense now, and they're terrible.
I think one of the saving graces, for the Colts or for the Dolphins is that the Colts have drop 5.3% of passes, which is the 3rd most in the NFL. So they could get a case of the drops. Here's my corny joke: the Dolphins drop 2.4% of balls, 3rd best in the league. And is that because the sideline has the best hands in the league? Is that up for debate?
Well, the sidelines have the biggest hands because it stretches around the entire field. So yeah.
Once the sideline got gloves, it was just out of this game.
They don't even need to stick them. They just play. They just go out. Football guys.
They stick to the line. All right.
Rub some grass on your hand.
I owe Kiko Alonso an apology from earlier this season. I don't know if he knows he has hands and he just kind of runs headfirst at players. He does, but he's acknowledged it. See, this is why I wish I could get into the locker room, because these questions eventually get answered. All the things we ask, just like weeks after we've already discussed it. It's not like a brag or anything. It's just like, this is interesting because Kiko, he runs just head first, and it came out, he said that because he doesn't, it prevents injuries. Like, he doesn't get arms stepped on. He doesn't get anything dislocated or jammed, which makes sense because he's played all 669 defensive snaps, for the Dolphins this year.
And I think once they brought McMillan, he's played better for the most part, right? Just the fact that he's been playing out of position for the entire time, but without the middle linebacker, and now he looks competent and he looks good. I'm happy we have a guy that's playing all snaps. You just leave him out on the field, and it's kind of like one less thing you got to worry about when it comes to rotations. And it also might say about your depth on how terrible it is.
Yeah, you're probably right. But I always liked the one thing that always bothered me is how people hated on that Eagles trade. Where we got Maxwell and Kiko for literally nothing, and all it did was give us depth. Maxwell actually was good his first year.
He wasn't bad.
Kiko was good his first year. Obviously, he had a down second year, but then you re-sign him, you add some consistency. Oh, and then we still get Laramie Tunsil from just moving back 4 spots. So that whole that was one of the trades I thought was actually the Dolphins did pretty wisely. So that was kind of fun for me. But we'll start wrapping it up here. It's Thanksgiving. You're flying. Whatever. Who cares? Humble brag. I don't care. You're cool.
Going to the Music City. Going to the Music City.
Wow. So we're gonna end with these two players. Eric Ebron has played around 40% of snaps and is still on pace to break the touchdown record for tight ends. Wow. Adam Gase is saying defenses are doing a good job at covering Mike Gesicki. What?
That was when I read that. I was like, I spit my water out, and I was in class on lunch break. I spit my water out, man.
Nothing made me eye roll more than that because it's his job as a coach
to exploit that, to move, to get him open.
Exactly.
To find matchup, whether it's a tight end screen. That quote basically said that Mike Gesicki is an amazing tight end, but we just can't get him the ball because teams are just double teaming. I'm like, bleep it, Travis Kelce, all these tight ends who are explosive tight ends, Kelce, Gronk, Ebron, Burton, they're all making plays. And I'm sure they're still being double teamed and game planned around too, but Gesicki doesn't know what the hell to do apparently, or he can't get the ball because of defensive schemes.
Yeah, and he's gonna try to say that teams are trying to shut down a guy who doesn't have an NFL touchdown.
He hasn't proven anything. Either Gesicki is basically this freakishly athletic tight end who could just do everything, but he's just really weak on the offensive on the line of scrimmage and he can't get past it. Mm-hmm. Or he's just lying to us because he's trying to create an excuse for the lack of involvement of a tight end. And it's probably both, but why not make the rookie feel good?
Yeah, so playing against a guy like Ebron scares the crap out of me because you think
Boyle.
Yeah, exactly, because one of them is going to be wide open in the end zone. As Dolphin fans, we've come to realize that. And then the other guy we have here is Marlon Mack, about 500 yards in the season, averaging 5 yards a rush, 4 touchdowns. But it's out of the receiving game where I think it's going to be, the Dolphins haven't been bad against screens, but I really think, the Dolphins might let him just walk it one in for an 80-yard touchdown or something like that. He's just that type of player. He's the Cohens, the James Whites that the Dolphins just can't stop.
And he's also a running back, and the Dolphins have a terrible run defense. So they're the slump. The Dolphins' defense is the slump buster. So, and luckily for Marlon Mack, he hasn't really been in a slump. He got hurt, and he's just been pretty good since his return from his injury. And that's probably because Andrew Luck has been playing really well as well, so they go hand in hand. I kind of would like to see a shootout a little bit, but I don't know, at least a competitive game. And they've played pretty well in Indianapolis. It's just, I think we're just so traumatized from Tannehill's injury and the state of this team this year that we have no hope, but they might just show up and play decent and still lose.
What's your let's go there. What's your score prediction?
I think it'll be 28-14 Indianapolis.
Yeah, the one thing that really stands out to me is, the morale is down with Osweiler. So I think the Dolphins are good for 1 or 2 games where they're really hyped up to have QB1 back. I know, I like how that's become a thing this year, saying,
oh my God.
QB1. Which it's kind of lame, but you got to embrace the lameness. I think it's going to be a 28-21 Colts, but I think the Dolphins are going to look decent and motivate them enough to go on a 2-game winning streak just to lose 2 of the final 3.
Yes, which will make up. That'll be awesome. The season is shaping out to when we were creating this podcast and we were thinking that we were spitballing names. The season is shaping up to kind of where we should get royalties. Because it's all over the place. And I feel terrible bragging about it, but you know what? We sat long and hard thinking about what to name this pod and in the hunt because we know it'll happen every year.
It's as beautiful as it gets. Topher, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, buddy.
You too, Jacob. And, where can you find us?
You can find us Spotify, Podbean, iTunes. We have over 5,000 views in just about, 4 months? That's not too bad. You can find us on Twitter as well. That's where we post a lot of our extra content, a couple memes, a couple other things, a couple GIFs. Stats. Yeah, GIFs, also known as GIFs, depending on who you're talking to. At MIA in the Hunt, at Cochran108, and me, JMendel94. I hope all of our listeners have a wonderful Thanksgiving whenever you listen to this. If Thanksgiving is over, I hope you have a great Black Friday. Go get them deals. And most importantly of all, Topher, fins up.
Fins up.